What if one of the most mysterious books in the Bible was not truly standing alone? What if centuries before the Book of Revelation described fiery heavenly thrones, imprisoned angels, cosmic warfare, heavenly books, judgment of kings, and the coming of a divine Son of Man? Another ancient text had already painted the same terrifying visions. Hidden for centuries, preserved in Ethiopia, discovered again among the Dead Sea Scrolls, and quoted inside the New Testament itself, the Book of Enoch has become one of the most controversial texts in religious history. Its similarities with Revelation are so striking that they force an uncomfortable question. If these two books speak the same symbolic language, emerge from the same apocalyptic world, and even share disputed authorship traditions, why did one become part of the Bible while the other was pushed into the shadows? But before continuing, please subscribe to my channel. It is a big deal to me, but a matter of a single click to you. Long before Christianity emerged, the Jewish world was already filled with apocalyptic expectation, angelic mysteries, heavenly journeys, and visions of final judgment. During the Second Temple period, texts like 1 Enoch circulated among Jewish communities who believed hidden knowledge about heaven had been revealed to ancient patriarchs. Then in 1947, the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran shocked the scholarly world when fragments of Enoch were uncovered among sacred Jewish writings, proving that the book existed before Jesus and was deeply respected by at least some Jewish communities. Suddenly, Enoch was no longer a forgotten legend preserved only by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. It became a key to understanding the spiritual universe that existed before the New Testament. The world of Enoch was a world where angels governed the cosmos. Fallen beings corrupted humanity, heavenly books recorded human deeds, and divine judgment hovered over empires and kings. Unlike ordinary religious writings, Enoch claimed to reveal hidden structures of heaven itself. Enoch journeys through celestial chambers, sees prisons prepared for rebellious angels, witnesses rivers of fire, and encounters terrifying visions of divine glory. These themes would later appear again inside Revelation, almost like echoes from an older forgotten tradition. To many scholars, this was no coincidence. Revelation was not born in isolation. It emerged from the same Jewish apocalyptic environment that had already shaped Enoch centuries earlier. Yet while most religious traditions eventually excluded Enoch from the biblical canon, Ethiopia preserved it as sacred scripture. For the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, Enoch was never merely mythology or fantasy. It was part of the ancient sacred inheritance passed down through generations of believers. This preservation became historically important because without Ethiopia, the complete text of Enoch might have disappeared entirely. Ironically, the same modern world that dismissed Enoch later rediscovered fragments of it buried beside the Dead Sea, forcing scholars to reconsider whether this mysterious book had played a far greater role in early Judaism and Christianity than anyone had previously imagined. One of the strongest parallels between Enoch and Revelation appears in their terrifying descriptions of heaven itself. In 1 Enoch, the patriarch is taken beyond the earthly realm into a heavenly palace surrounded by fire, crystal, lightning, and overwhelming glory. He describes a throne blazing with flames while countless angelic beings stand in worship before the divine presence. Centuries later, Revelation presents John standing before another heavenly throne surrounded by thunder, lightning, burning fire, living creatures, and endless worship. The similarities are so striking that many scholars believe both books belong to the same ancient tradition of Jewish throne room visions. But these visions are more than symbolic religious poetry. In both books, heaven functions as the control center of cosmic government. God is portrayed not merely as a distant spiritual figure, but as a king presiding over a heavenly court where angels carry out judgment across creation. Books are opened before the throne. Human deeds are examined. Kings and nations are weighed before divine justice. The imagery transforms history itself into a cosmic courtroom drama where earthly events reflect invisible spiritual realities unfolding behind the scenes of human civilization. For ancient audiences living under oppression, persecution, and corrupt empires, these visions carried enormous emotional power. Revelation was written during the shadow of Roman imperial domination, while Enoch emerged during periods of political crisis and cultural upheaval within Second Temple Judaism. Both books reassured suffering believers that earthly empires were temporary, that hidden heavenly justice still existed, and that history itself would ultimately end not under the rule of kings and tyrants, but under the authority of God's eternal throne. Perhaps no section of Enoch became more influential than the story of the Watchers, angels who descended to earth, corrupted humanity, taught forbidden knowledge, and unleashed violence upon the world. In Enoch's account, these rebellious beings are eventually chained in darkness awaiting final judgment. This dramatic vision of cosmic rebellion would permanently shape Jewish and Christian ideas about demons, evil spirits, and spiritual warfare. When Revelation later describes Satan cast down from heaven, demonic powers deceiving nations, and imprisoned forces awaiting destruction, the connection to Enochic themes becomes impossible to ignore. The Book of Revelation expands this cosmic conflict into a universal war between heaven and evil itself. Dragons, beasts, fallen stars, abyss prisons, and apocalyptic judgments dominate its imagery. But many of these concepts did not appear suddenly in Christianity. They already existed in Jewish apocalyptic traditions like Enoch. Both books portray evil not merely as human immorality, but as part of a larger supernatural rebellion involving angelic powers influencing the destiny of nations and civilizations. Humanity becomes trapped inside a cosmic struggle extending far beyond the visible world. These ideas deeply influenced how later believers understood history itself. Wars, corruption, oppression, and moral collapse were interpreted not simply as political problems, but as manifestations of spiritual disorder in the heavenly realm. In both Enoch and Revelation, evil powers are ultimately defeated, imprisoned, and destroyed through divine intervention. This shared vision of cosmic warfare helped shape later Christian theology, demonology, and end-times expectation for centuries across the ancient world. One of the most astonishing parallels between Enoch and Revelation revolves around the mysterious figure known as the Son of Man. In sections of Enoch written before or around the time of Jesus, a heavenly Redeemer appears beside God's throne possessing authority to judge kings, vindicate the righteous, and establish eternal justice. This figure is pre-existent, glorious, and associated with divine judgment over the nations. Later, Revelation presents Jesus Christ in remarkably similar terms, enthroned in heaven, judging empires, ruling nations, and returning in cosmic glory. This raises one of the biggest questions in biblical scholarship. Where did the New Testament's Son of Man imagery come from? Many scholars now believe the Enochic tradition formed part of the theological background that shaped early Christian understanding of Jesus. Rather than inventing entirely new apocalyptic concepts, Christianity may have inherited an already existing Jewish expectation of a heavenly messianic judge. Revelation transforms this figure into the crucified and risen Christ, but the symbolic framework had already been established centuries earlier inside Jewish apocalyptic literature. Both books also describe a terrifying final judgment where the powerful tremble before divine authority. Kings, rulers, and mighty empires discover that earthly power cannot protect them from heavenly justice. Human history moves toward a climactic moment when hidden deeds are exposed, heavenly books are opened, and the righteous are separated from the wicked. This vision of ultimate accountability became one of the defining features of both apocalyptic Judaism and Christianity, connecting Enoch and Revelation through one of the deepest theological themes in ancient religious thought. Enoch and Revelation both describe the end of the present world through terrifying cosmic imagery. Stars fall from heaven. The earth trembles. The heavens are shaken. Fire consumes corruption while creation itself appears to collapse under divine judgment. These scenes are not simply predictions of physical catastrophe. They symbolize the destruction of evil systems governing the world. Ancient apocalyptic writers used cosmic language to portray the collapse of unjust empires, spiritual corruption, and rebellion against divine order. Yet beyond destruction, both books also proclaim resurrection and restoration. In Enoch, the righteous are vindicated, transformed, and glorified after judgment. Revelation similarly describes resurrection, eternal reward, white-robed saints, and a new creation where death itself is defeated. History does not end in chaos, it ends in renewal. The righteous inherit peace, while evil powers disappear forever. This shared hope gave persecuted communities the courage to endure suffering by believing that divine justice would ultimately reverse the cruelty of the present age. The similarities become even more striking in their symbolic language. Both books describe heavenly books, angelic trumpets, rivers of fire, crowns, stars, thrones, shining garments, and heavenly worship. These were not isolated literary inventions. They belong to a shared symbolic vocabulary that spread across Jewish apocalyptic tradition long before Christianity became a global religion. Revelation did not create this language from nothing. It inherited and transformed imagery already deeply rooted in the world of Enoch. After comparing these astonishing parallels, an uncomfortable question emerges. If Enoch and Revelation share such similar visions, symbolism, theology, and apocalyptic themes, why did one become universally accepted scripture while the other was rejected by most of the Christian world? The question becomes even more difficult when considering that Revelation itself faced major disputes in early Christianity. Some church leaders questioned its authorship, symbolism, and legitimacy. Yet eventually Revelation entered the biblical canon while Enoch remained outside it in most traditions except Ethiopia. Supporters of Enoch argue that the situation is historically inconsistent. The New Testament book of Jude directly quotes Enoch. The Dead Sea Scrolls prove that Jewish communities preserved and respected it before Christianity existed. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church continues to recognize it as inspired scripture even today. And many ideas found in Revelation, heavenly judgment, imprisoned angels, cosmic warfare, resurrection, and the Son of Man, appear in Enoch first. Critics may call Enoch pseudepigraphal because scholars believe it was written later than the historical Enoch, yet the authorship of several biblical books, including Revelation itself, has also been debated for centuries. This controversy ultimately exposes a deeper truth about the formation of the Bible itself. Canon was not formed instantly or universally. Different communities preserve different sacred traditions. Some believers see divine providence guiding the canon. Others point to historical politics, institutional authority, geography, and church power shaping which books became accepted across the world. For many modern readers, Enoch forces a difficult reflection. Was this ancient book unfairly neglected, or does its preservation outside the mainstream canon reveal forgotten dimensions of early Jewish and Christian history that the modern world is only beginning to rediscover? Whether one accepts the Book of Enoch as scripture or not, its shadow stretches across the ancient religious world in undeniable ways. Without Enoch, many of the symbols inside Revelation appear sudden and mysterious. But with Enoch, Revelation begins to look less like an isolated prophecy and more like the continuation of a much older apocalyptic tradition rooted deep within Second Temple Judaism. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not simply why Enoch was excluded, but why its influence remained hidden for so long despite surviving in Ethiopia, appearing among the Dead Sea Scrolls, and echoing through the pages of the New Testament itself. And maybe the final question is this: if two books speak with such similar voices about heaven, judgment, angels, and the end of the world, what does that reveal about the forgotten spiritual universe that shaped early Christianity itself? If you enjoyed this video, please encourage me to create more similar videos by subscribing, sharing to others, and liking.